Thank you for the opportunity. I think this is my third time at the committee, and in October we also were in the Oireachtas for the launch of our economic impact study for Dublin, and we will plan to do something in Cork, I think in the new year, to that effect as well. So thanks for the invitation. Very happy to be back here. I'll give you a run through of everything that's going on in DA. So as you can see from the presentation there, if I go on to the next slide, I'll cover Dublin Airport operations, Cork Airport update, flight paths, noise and the community and how we're working with the community in Fingal, the recent economic impact study, planning priorities and the infrastructure application that we'll be submitting in less than 3 weeks' time to Fingal, and the video will be on just describing what's going to happen in that infrastructure application and how we'll be really giving Dublin a much better Dublin Airport, and how sustainability is a key part of that. I will then go on to sustainability, and then there's a few other topics that we might get into that I might refer to, but there's about 20 slides that I will go through. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'll go on to Dublin Airport. If you could go on to the next slide. It's nearly the end of November. We've had a good year at Dublin Airport. Operations have been stable, very stable. It's been a good summer. A lot of passengers going through. I think generally passengers very, very happy with the service that we've given them. Security has been performed really, really well. Very, very different to the previous summer. The standards at Dublin Airport were very, very strong. We did a huge amount of work in the run-up to the summer, really improving the things that matter at the airport. So we've invested in faster Wi-Fi, we've improved the toilet facilities, we improved the food and beverage offering, the retail offering, worked on the transportation options. And really getting it ready to be a much better airport for passengers in the summer, and I think we delivered on that. And a big thank you to the team at Dublin Airport who worked really, really hard to do that. If you can go on to the next slide, the feedback from passengers is very positive. So the Net Promoter Score, which is the question you ask passengers on would you recommend Dublin Airport to other people, that's improved by 25% compared to the previous year. So we're very happy with that. And 98% of passengers got through security in less than 20 minutes. So I first came to this committee, I think it was February of last year, and I set out what we were looking to do for the summer. We've more than delivered in terms of the queue times.
Probably February of this year, actually, was it? February of this year?
February of this year, yeah, February of this year. So look, we're very happy with that. I'm very happy with that. It's a very stable operation, and that will continue. So we've invested in a huge number of new positions in the security organisation. That's close to 1,000 people that we will now have there. Security is going to further improve as we roll out the C3 machines, security scanning machines, which are like MRI machines, which are much better for compliance, but they're also a better passenger experience because you're not taking the liquids out of your bag. So I hope some of you have had that experience going through Dublin Airport. We intend to roll that out across both T1 and T2, and also in Cork Airport. And in fact, it's something that I think in the coming decade you'll probably see it just become the norm in all European airports. If you go on to the next slide, we're driving a lot of innovation. I think it was at the last committee here, someone asked me about the viewing point that on the old airport road, and that's what that top picture is. So we're planning to ask Fingal for permission to really make that viewing point something much, much better for people who like to come out and see aircraft take off and land. I do that myself with my kids on a regular basis, and we want to make that one of the community initiatives that we have in the years ahead. A big investment in our app, a big investment in the whole baggage screening system that we have, the C3 security machines that I've mentioned, much more investment in maintenance, and really sprucing the place up, adding more food and beverage options so that when passengers are at the terminal, there's plenty of places to go and shop, which is obviously good for our bottom line as well. We've appointed a new managing director of Dublin Airport at the end of the summer. That's Gary McLean, and we've appointed a new managing director of DAA Labs, which will drive our digital innovation going forward. So there's a lot of digital happening in airports and in aviation in general. That's across security, that's across infrastructure, that's across sustainability, and it's one of the key areas that we see ourselves investing. I think sustainability and digital going hand in hand will be two key pillars of really driving the organisation going forward. Better lounges and even more seating for passengers. We've got about 500 capacity in our lounges. We'd like to double that in the years ahead, so that's a bigger Platinum lounge, but that's also adding more lounge capacity in T1 and T2 because passengers are looking for that. A new Dublin Airport app has been launched, and you'll see regular updates to that app going forward. The new community viewing area that I've mentioned, further improvements in Wi-Fi and air conditioning. We need additional air conditioning because those C3 security machines, they create a lot more heat. More mobile phone charging points, including the repairing, Mr. Chairman, of some of the charging points that you mentioned the last time we met in October, and more EV spaces. So obviously EV ownership in Ireland is growing. We want to be able to offer people the ability to drive from anywhere in the country, park at Dublin Airport. The vehicle would be charged while you're on your trip, and then you would come back and pick it up, and it's a fully charged vehicle. Moving on to the next slide. I'll keep mentioning charges. We'll have a modest increase in charges in 2024. Again, just to remind ourselves, these are the regulated charges, so it will go up by about 5% next year. Again, I'd like to remind the committee that's while we have cost inflation of over 10%, and while airfares for the third year in a row have gone up close to 30%. So look, airline balance sheets are in a fantastic condition post the pandemic. Good luck to them. That's really, really good. They're using that money to invest in modern fleets. I would like the charges at Dublin to go up further, because even with the increase that we have in 2024, it's still less than half the European average for capital city charges. And I also think the charges at Shannon, charges at Cork should also increase, because it allows the airports there to further invest in the things that they want to invest in, like the rollout of C3, like additional resources in the organisation. I'll quickly come on to Cork Airport. Cork Airport had a very good summer. If you go on to the next slide, new routes have been added and will continue to be added in Cork. I think sometimes people say to us the DA is all about Dublin Airport. It's not. I'm from Cork myself. I'm wearing my Cork pin. And even with our infrastructure application for Dublin, you know, we're looking to grow Dublin from 32 to 40 million passengers. That's a 25% increase by the year 2030. We're looking to grow Cork Airport by more than that. Cork Airport doesn't have a planning restriction. There's a very big national plan to develop Cork City and County. I think the plan is by 2040 that City and County will have a population of 1 million. That will drive demand for travel. That will see further routes added in Cork Airport. So I see Cork Airport this year will have its biggest ever year for international traffic, and I will see that continuing. And we definitely want more airlines to fly to and from Cork, and it's had a very, very good summer this year, and the people of Cork are delighted to see routes added like La Rochelle, and I think you'll see more of that from both Ryanair and Aer Lingus. So Cork could get to 4 million, Cork could get to 5 million. We will be investing in the infrastructure in Cork. If you go on to the next slide, for those of you that know Cork Airport, if you go on to the next one again, please. And if you see that bottom right-hand picture, that's a diagram explaining what the infrastructure at Cork would look like. So that's a lot more stands, that's potentially a lot more aircraft as Cork Airport expands. We would knock the old terminal, because in the place there you'd end up with a new pier, and using that new pier would be aircraft parked up against it, and that would be, as you come into the existing terminal, you'd go left down to that new pier. We'll also be rolling out the C3 screening machines in Cork. A solar farm would be developed also in 2024, and a new electrical substation was recently launched in Cork. So we have big plans for Cork. It's really stable. I see the airlines becoming more and more interested. Will some airlines say if Dublin's capped, we might put routes to Cork? Some, but it will be in the margins. I don't see lock, stock and barrel. And again, having worked in the airline business, airlines generally say, look, we'll look at Cork, we'll look at Shannon, and it's that regional competition between those airports. Airlines don't really look at that. We'll take a route out of Dublin and move it to Cork or Shannon. They will look at duplicating them, and I hope Cork and Shannon both grow in the years ahead. Moving on to flight paths, noise in the community. Quickly on flight paths, because I know it's a topic that was recently discussed. Look, these are designed by experts to align with planning and international safety regulations. We are responsible for the flight paths. We delegate that responsibility to AirNav Ireland as the the ANSAP, and ultimately then flight paths are examined and approved by IAA in its role as a regulator. So initially at Dublin, when the North Runway launched, we had a flight path that from August until February of this year, that was overflowing some parts of the community that were consulted. That was been fixed since February. We've apologised for that error that we've made, but I'm happy now to say that those flight paths are fully compliant with what was consulted with those communities, and that will continue to be the case. That's pretty much what I have to say on flight paths, but we're responsible. We do that with the AirNav Ireland, and we consult with the IAA, and ultimately they sign off the flight paths. On to noise. We released a document called the Facts on Noise recently, I think at the end of the summer, because we just wanted to really just demonstrate what has happened if you compare 2019 to now. So there's been a 50% reduction in the number of households impacted by noise compared to 2019. That's in 2022 and in 2023. There was always two runways at Dublin Airport. If you know that crosswind runway, which is used when aircraft are taking off in very windy conditions, that would have sent aircraft straight over Whitehall, Beaumont and Santry, and a huge number of households were impacted by noise when you had those windy mornings in particular. That's now changed with the North Runway. That's why we have a much smaller number of households that are impacted by noise. We are promoting, and we've announced this year, and it will kick in next year, an incentive for airlines that are using quieter and more sustainable aircraft. That will be a discount on the charges. We take noise very, very seriously. I think it's a big topic across Europe and across the world for aviation and airports. The good news is that, look, aircraft are getting quieter. I think Ireland is actually quite progressive when I compare it to other European countries on this. We have a very effective noise regulator in ANCA. We invest in noise monitoring to see where the noise is. There are strict noise contours that are managed by ANCA, and ultimately we have insulated 150 homes. That's 3/4 of the 200 homes that ANCA's noise modelling suggests that we could and should insulate. The 50 that haven't been insulated because those households haven't asked us yet, as soon as they do, we will say, yeah, we will go ahead and insulate them for noise. That brings the noise right down for those households. I see us insulating probably a couple of hundred homes in the years ahead. So we've got a relevant action with Bord Pleanála. Within that, we have an additional noise insulation scheme that we would like to get approved, and then we would carry on with insulating more homes. We're constantly working on this with ANCA. We meet with them regularly, and we will continue to do that. So we take noise very seriously. For me, it's about monitoring. It's about insulating homes. For homes that are very near the end of the runway, we have bought out homes, and we will continue to do that. That's at 30% above the market price. Moving on to noise mitigation measures, I've kind of touched on this one, but if you just go on to the next slide. So 200 homes eligible, 150 done so far. We'll continue to monitor. We have good engagement with Kilcoscan School. I know that that's been a topic that has been discussed here. I think we had our last meeting. Actually, we did have our last meeting this morning with the principal of Kilcoscan School, and we are working on a few options there that we would like to put in place for the kids there, particularly the special needs kids that are in Kilcoscan. I've met the principal myself about a month ago, and as I said, we had a second meeting this morning, and we're exploring what we're going to do there. And there's a new complaint system in place, which is a good thing, because then there's full visibility on what are the noise complaints for ourselves, for Fingal, and for ANCA going forward. Moving on to community engagement. I think we're a good neighbour, and we want to continue to be a good neighbour in Fingal, and this is something that you have to continue to work at. We have a 10 million community fund available for projects in the local area. 2 million of this has been invested so far since 2017. 100 plus projects will be funded this year alone. That's also supported by events that we've done, like the recent Halloween event in Swords Castle. Very good ongoing community engagement. We have people constantly out meeting households, meeting nursing homes, meeting schools, really engaging with the community to hear back from them. What their views are, what more we can do, and we want to be a good neighbour, and I would consider us a good neighbour. So we're constantly listening. We'll continue to engage and do what we need to do and take their ideas on board. Moving on to the economic impact study. And look, it's Dublin Airport, but it is Ireland's airport. And I'm a big fan of all the airports in Ireland and general in aviation. But Dublin Airport is really Ireland's airport and is the gateway to Ireland. If you could go on to, stay on this slide, please. There's 116,000 jobs supported at Dublin Airport. I think really important to say that more than half of these are outside Dublin City and County. 9.6 billion in economic value added from Dublin Airport, so it's 2.3% of the economy. That's really important, and Dublin Airport plays a vital role in connectivity. It plays a vital role for business connectivity and businesses investing in Ireland, and we hear that from the business community. We launched this economic impact study in the Oireachtas with both IBEC and ICTU, because Dublin Airport is a key driver of economic success on this open periphery, this open island on the periphery of Europe, and it's a key driver of jobs. If you go on to the next slide, 27% of the jobs are in Fingal, 21% are in the rest of Dublin, but 52% of the jobs at Dublin Airport are outside of in the rest of the country, and that's really important. Moving on to planning, and I am now on slide. We'll play the video at the end of this. On planning and the cap. So look, we will fully comply with the 32 million planning cap that is on Dublin Airport. That will only change when we get planning permission to go above that. So that is a matter of fact, and that is what we'll continue to do. That's leading to tough conversations with the airlines. I think you've had the airlines publicly saying that they're unhappy with the cap and that it should be lifted. We would like the cap to be lifted. I hope that cap gets lifted once we get planning, and I hope we get planning as quickly as possible. But that will take a while. We will submit our infrastructure application to Fingal on December 15th. The sooner it gets approved, the better. I think there will be challenges. It's a very good infrastructure application, and we'll play you a video in a few slides that describe what that will do. But until then, we will be fully compliant with the cap on Dublin Airport. The cap is a planning condition linked to surface access, so we will be managing to that, and we are managing down capacity. So we are actively managing down capacity. We have taken out transit passengers. We've taken away a growth incentive from the airlines, and we will be looking at how do we manage this in 2024, and that puts difficult choices on the table. Difficult choices like charter flights, difficult choices like non-scheduled flights, difficult choices like general aviation. That we might say, look, what the priority will be scheduled commercial services with passengers on board. And that's going to create some difficulty. And I'm sure you may have had you will have several representations from people saying that they're unhappy with this, that the cap should be lifted. But we will be managing to the cap and the restriction until we get a green light on planning. That's going to lead to difficult choices, but that's what we have to do until we get the new planning. So the impact will be on general aviation and business jets, on sports and special events. So things like the Europa League final, things like the Six Nations and charter jets looking to come to Dublin Airport. We may be saying that you need to go to Shannon, you need to go to Cork, you need to go to Belfast, because we can't accommodate you because we are managing to the 32 million. Just flagging that, that's not new news, but I think it's important that everybody understands that. If I go on then to just say a bit further on caps, if you go on to the next slide, generally caps don't work. If you could go on to the next one, please. And I think it was at the committee a couple of times, I think the caps at Schiphol were referenced. Now, this very week or last week, the cap at Schiphol Airport was removed. It was challenged by the European Commission that it was anti-competitive. There was a view that, look, this would be great for sustainability. All that happened was Air France KLM moved hub traffic to Charles de Gaulle. So that's really what happened. So caps don't stop flying, they just move the flights someplace else. A cap at Dublin Airport will really just make the airline say, well, we'll move to another big hub airport like Manchester or like Edinburgh. And an airport like Edinburgh is already talking to the airline saying, look, if it's Dublin's capped, we'll give you a special incentive to come and do transatlantic stuff at Edinburgh. That's not good for jobs here in Ireland. It's not taking flights out of the sky within the EU and the UK. It's just moving them elsewhere. There's another myth out there that, look, if you cap Dublin, it will move the flights to Shannon and Cork, and that's what happened in the Netherlands. Flights, when Schiphol was capped, flights didn't go to Rotterdam and Eindhoven. Again, it's hub traffic that just went to Charles de Gaulle. So generally, caps don't work for sustainability. Caps don't work for moving capital city airline traffic to the regional airports, and there's a better way to do sustainability, and there's a better way to develop the traffic at the regional airports here in Ireland. So I think it's a good thing that the cap at Schiphol has been removed, and in general I think caps don't work. It would lead to reduced jobs. So if Dublin is capped at 32 million for the next number of years, about 16,000 jobs that could be created in Ireland, in Leinster, in Dublin, in Fingal would be lost, and they will go elsewhere. Airfares will go up, because simply the airlines would do two things, I suspect. They would say, well, we're not going to put our newest aircraft in Dublin. That's not going to be good for noise. That's not going to be good for sustainability. And if you've got demand managed down with an artificial cap, airfares will go up. It's as simple as that. And there's evidence to support this in the Netherlands and any other city that has had a cap. So, Dublin is the 5th largest hub in Europe, and we want to develop that as a hub going forward and really improve the airport. But caps don't work. It will just move jobs. We will lose connectivity. Bringing that connectivity back is a big challenge. If Aer Lingus and Ryanair said we're moving the capacity that we had hoped to add to Dublin, to Manchester, Edinburgh, Gatwick and other airports, it will be a challenge for us to get it back and to get the jobs associated with that traffic back. And I think that would be the wrong thing for Ireland. It would certainly be the wrong thing for Dublin Airport. So moving on then to the timeline on the process for getting a replication in and the cap. Look, I think we're all aware of 2008, the economic cycle, the things that happened to the economy there. That led to a big dip in aviation. Then we were getting on with planning for the North Runway. Then we had COVID. That's why we're getting in the planning application at this point in time. Planning in Ireland, if it went faster, I think everybody would say that would be good and that would help us. But the infrastructure application that we will submit in December, on December 15th specifically, is a very good one, and it will show you how we plan to develop Dublin Airport. If you go on to the next slide, please. The key elements in that will be a new extended Pier 1 in the north apron, a new Pier 5 at Dublin Airport. So if you go through T2, you go through duty free, where you then go right to go to the gates, you'll now be able to go left, and that will be a new pier there for transatlantic flights. C3 security machines added in T1 and T2, and a new mezzanine floor upstairs in T1, where ultimately we'll start off with security, but then I think we'll move fast track to, and we'll have a new lounge there. In the airfield, we will have a new underpass getting vehicles to the west side of the airport. We will add a new apron drainage infrastructure, and on landslide, much more public transport infrastructure, parking and car hire facilities. I hope a lot more people in the years ahead come to Dublin Airport on the bus. I hope from about 2035 onwards people are taking the Metro North. That would be great, and that we have less vehicles coming with individual drivers, less people sitting on their own in the back of a taxi, and that more people are using public transport. We're ready for that. We've got where we would end up with the Metro North station at Dublin Airport. That's all ready to go, and we are absolutely a key part of that transition. That's the 2 billion investment that we want to make in infrastructure. That's a Dublin Airport that can have 40 million passengers a year, and each of those passengers, creating less CO2 than 32 million passengers would today. A huge amount of that infrastructure application is investments in sustainability. That's a solar farm. That is land, that's new drainage, that's new terminals with more modern heating, more modern electricity. So the emissions for every passenger going through a 40 million Dublin airport will be less than the emissions than we would have if we didn't do this infrastructure application. An airport is like a home, and is like a house. And if you don't do the insulation, if you don't double glaze the windows, if you don't have a modern boiler and do all those things, the energy usage will just continue to go up. So sustainability at Dublin Airport, any airport in Ireland or globally, will ultimately go backwards unless you modernise it with modern infrastructure. And a huge amount of that, there's about 500 million alone in sustainability investments within that infrastructure application. And I know some people said that can't possibly be the case, but it is the case. If we cap Dublin Airport and don't invest in infrastructure, sustainability will actually go backwards. And that's not what we want. We're looking to grow Dublin Airport by 25%. That's 32 to 40 million. That 25% increase in capacity that we think Ireland needs simply matches the 20 to 25% population increase that's forecast between now and about 2040. So Ireland is growing, the population is growing, and Dublin Airport needs to grow for sustainability. It needs to grow to protect our connectivity, to protect business, and to create new jobs.